Hi dear Truth Warriors, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. For all of you that are new to the channel and who have subscribed, I am Petra Van Dale. I'm a life coach and advocate for survivors of narcissistic and emotional abuse. So just to answer a quick question, a lot of people have asked me, do you live in a tiny house? Because I know on the back of me it looks very tiny. No, I don't live in a tiny house. I think I would love to live in a tiny house, but I'm in my attic right now. So the slanted ceilings is because I'm way up in the attic. So today I'd like to focus on the inner child, just a little bit, because every child who comes into this life, who is born into this world, has a fundamental right to be loved, to be protected, to be made to feel secure, and to have all of these beautiful values in life from an unconditional level. And sadly enough, very many children and now who are adults have never experienced this. And this, for whatever reason, the main reason when speaking of narcissistic abuse is that when you are raised in dysfunction and when you are raised in trauma, then your foundation is never made to be solid because of all the abuse that you have endured, because of all the wrong programming, or as I like to refer to them, the incorrect messages that are programmed into your young mind become the way you view yourself, the way you speak to yourself, and the lack of love for yourself and appreciation and care. This has nothing to do with you. This is not your fault. Every parent has the obligation to raise their child with love, with affection, with security, and with protection. And again, when you have not experienced this as a young child, because you have grown up in a dysfunctional or traumatizing home, then you have no sense of who you are. You feel totally disconnected from yourself because the way you showed up as a child, which is a very authentic way, was not accepted by your parents. So when you grow up with this idea about yourself, that you are not worthy, that you are not good enough, that you have to do in order to get to receive, then that messes with your mind, that messes with your self-esteem, with your self-worth and value. So as we move into adulthood, we are aware that we are deserving of love and respect and trust and security. We are aware of this because this is who we are as authentic human beings. So there's one part awareness, and on the other part there's the programming from childhood, and these two get into conflict with each other. So when you feel that you want to live from your true essence and you want to live from your true authenticity, but your mind, the ego, the programming is telling you you cannot live that way. You are unworthy of living that way. You are unworthy of love, of affection, of respect. So these two, or the mind gets into conflict with your emotional body. And it is very frightening when you have grown up in dysfunction and you don't feel that you can express yourself and be yourself because it was never accepted from an early age. Then this is how you move through life. This is how you conduct your friendships, your relationships. You're always vigilant. You are not trusting of yourself or trusting of others. And this can cause a lot of damage, emotional damage especially, to your relationships and friendships. That is not to put blame on you, absolutely not. Excuse me. But it is to give you a perspective on how you have been raised and that none of this is your fault. Because every child comes into life as a clean slate. They're an empty book, and your parents are the authors of that book. So in the first 18 chapters of your life's book, that it is supposed to be filled with love and acceptance and trust and good times and fun times, because that creates the foundation on which you build the rest of your life. So when you have not felt that as a child, you go through life with blinders on. You see life through a different color glasses, and you sort of feel your way through life. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to, how am I supposed to show up? How am I supposed to respond? So you go through life guessing what you're supposed to be doing, because when you lived from your authentic self as a young child, this was shut down by toxic or dysfunctional parents. So when you perceive yourself, or when you come to the realization that your thoughts are not in alignment with your feelings, or your feelings are not in alignment with your thoughts, then this creates a lot of conflict. And it is very important, it is imperative that you heal that inner child, that wounded child. And it may sound very woo-woo, when we speak of your authentic child and your wounded child. But what your wounded child really is subconscious, your subconsciousness. So you are conducting your life from subconscious programming. This is really what the inner wounded child is. So to just give you an example, the two children, the authentic child and the wounded child. So the authentic child explores, is creative, is open, is happy, is expanding. The wounded child is closed, shut down, has anxiety, is shrinking as opposed to expanding. There's a lot of anger involved, a lot of sadness, a lot of depression. And again, moving back to the authentic child feels seen and heard. The wounded child feels unseen and unheard. The authentic child has self-esteem, self-love. The wounded child has little to no self-esteem or self-love and self-appreciation. The authentic child lives vibrantly, lives in abundance. The wounded child lives in a closed state, survives, really, simply survives. And another thing that the authentic child does is live in the present moment, whereas the wounded child will continuously live in the past. Because you're carrying baggage with you, you're carrying wounds with you. And when we speak of the authentic and wounded child, all of us as adults switch between the two. So there is a balance. When you have not been raised in dysfunction or trauma, then you are able to switch between the authentic and the inner child. So for example, you are living authentically and then something triggers you. Someone says something, someone does something. So it's the external factors that trigger an emotional response within you, and then you move into the inner wounded child. So it is very healthy to have a balance between the authentic and the wounded child. But again, when you have been raised in dysfunction and when you have experienced a very large amount of trauma, then you tend to stay in that state of the wounded child. You find it very difficult or almost impossible to move into your authentic child. And this makes a lot of sense. Because when you haven't healed those inner wounds, they are going to plague you. You're going to be carrying them around with you like this heavy load on your shoulders, and you're going to sense it and feel it and experience it in every aspect of your life. So it is imperative to heal those inner wounds. And there's only so much you can do by talking. And when I say talking, I mean coaching or talk therapy. There's a lot that can be solved simply by talking, by expressing your thoughts, expressing your experiences or telling about your experiences. But the body keeps score. The body, especially as a young child, you store all of that traumatic energy within your body. So whereas intellectually you understand what you have been through, emotionally you are totally disconnected from your body. And this is where the pain and the conflict comes in. So in order to heal that wounded child so that you can create a beautiful balance between your authentic and your wounded child, it is so important to feel your feelings, to allow yourself to feel those feelings, feel those emotions, get into a very intimate and honest conversation with yourself. So this is important because we are all multi-dimensional human beings. When we have been through trauma, when we have been wounded, we cannot just heal that from a intellectual level. We need to go deeper. We need to go through the dimensions. So the emotional part is so important because narcissistic abuse is always an attack on your nervous system and on your emotional body. So in order to get that right, to get that healed, you need to get in touch with your feelings and emotions, acknowledge them, console yourself, heal those parts of yourself that have been wounded and integrate them with your adult self, your authentic child. So this is very important, and I'm very passionate about this because so many of us, and I hear this as well when I'm speaking to clients, is that you go through life doing the things that you need to do. There's maybe a family, there's your job, your work, your career, there's the hobbies you do, there's so you're functioning, but it's on pause. So you feel that you're stuck. You feel that you don't know what it is, you don't know how to explain it, but you just feel stuck, that you cannot move through life. And that is when it is so important to focus on the emotional side, because this is what needs to be healed. The shame, the guilt, the fear, which is not even yours. The shame, the guilt, and the fear that you feel has been projected onto you by toxic parents, toxic friendships, toxic relationships. It is their projection onto you. So when you feel the fear and the sadness and the guilt and the shame, you think it has something to do with you, but it has nothing to do with you. It is simply projection. And of course, these feelings are magnified because you are then disconnected from your emotional body. So if you would like to join me in a couple of weeks on, I believe it's a Sunday, March the 20th, I will be hosting a breathwork class to heal the inner child. And it's going to be a longer class. Usually I just do an hour and 15 minutes, but this is going to be a 2-hour class. And sometimes it can go on to 2.5, 3 hours. But we'll just start from a 2-hour class where we're going to be doing the circular breath, which I am totally passionate about because it works, because it heals. So if you would like to join us, please do that. The circular breath, you can read about it online. But to just tell you in a nutshell, circular breath is how you access your emotional center. And in your emotional center is where your feelings and emotions are stored, and the energy of trauma is stored in your emotional center. So you cannot access that part of yourself simply by talking, simply by approaching your situation from an intellectual level. It has to go much deeper than that. So doing the circular breath work allows you to access your emotional center, bring up the energy, and then transform that energy, because energy cannot be terminated, but it can definitely be transformed, which will allow you to heal those parts of yourself, integrate those wounded parts of yourself with your authentic self, and have a sense of freedom, inner peace, contentment. These are all great values that you are entitled to. It is your birthright to go through life feeling vibrant, feeling that you can take on life, you can deal with challenges that come your way. You just have this one life. So make the best of it. Invest in yourself. Invest time and energy in yourself. And shift your focus from trauma to healing. So once again, if you'd like to join me March the 20th, I'm going to put it up on the website, and you can sign up for class there. I look forward to seeing you there. Take care of yourselves, and love to all of you. Bye for now.